hit stream, hit go live. And we're live here on Facebook. Like to welcome those listening in podcast land, and also like to welcome my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Mike. Bathroom project's coming along, and we got a bookcase now.
Awesome.
Really nice custom bookcase
Yeah.
that replaced a kind of an outdated banister.
Nice.
Still a little bit of work in progress, but around the house on the two projects, but they're both coming along good.
Good.
Mike, how are you doing?
We're doing great. We are just plugging along. Baby's baby girl's doing great. Baby not born yet's doing good, and my wife's doing well. So work's great. Was a little crazy this week, but we made it through, and yeah, looking forward to the weekend. We're here to get you started with that, and so with that, let's talk sports. Man, we have a wild week for the NCAA tournament. We're going to talk about how crazy it is. Plus, we are going to give you our predictions for some Bears stuff and maybe some stuff in the NFL. Maybe if we have some time, we'll talk some NFL free agency deals and trades that might. You have it you have it in here. Did you
No,
forget to
I
delete
put a
it?
maybe. I put a maybe on the NFL because I wasn't
Well,
sure if there were any big ones to really hit on this week.
I figure I'll give it as a topic
Maybe
because
there are.
I took I took the biggest topic out there right now, and I figured I'll give you the next two big ones that we have to talk about as
All
well.
right. Well, Mike, we got to talk about NASCAR. As we got to tell you what happened in the Ambetter Health 500 and give you a prediction for the Eco Park Automotive Grand Prix, as well as we got to talk about the Chicago Cubs, and baseball in general. As we got to give you, we got more predictions in the world of baseball. But Mike, what do we got to do first?
First, we got to roll that intro. Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich. And we're back. Okay, before we get into anything, man, do we talk the poll question now, or do we wait till the end because it wraps up so perfectly with our end of sports conversation stuff that we do at the end? We'll do it now. We're doing. Apparently, it's Country Week here on Balls and Sticks because we did our poll question. Thank God I'm a country boy versus Take Me Home Country Road. Rich, where'd you vote?
I went with "Take Me Home, Country Roads." It's a fun song to sing along to, and just the being hearing it from both you and my wife when you went to that Bandits game, and one of the players had that as his walk-up song, and every time the guy came out the bat, the crowd sang along
Take me
and kept the song
home,
going
West
and kept the song going
Virginia,
throughout his at bat.
Mountain
Would have been
Mama.
would have
Yeah,
been fun to see, but I had to work that night, so didn't get to go.
legitimately, uh, if my kid, if my kids ever become professional athletes, I have to convince them that has to be theirs because I want to sing it at the like. I mean, personally, I'm not a huge John Denver fan. My mom loves John Denver, so I can't. I got to be careful where I say this because she watches the show. She loves John Denver. She voted for Country Road as well. By the way, you gave my reason, like 100%. You gave my reason for me voting for Country Road. And Rich, man, I don't think we've had this happen in two polls in a row. 100% of the votes. All 6 of us have voted. Lacey Stroop, Craig Johnson, your wife, my mother, me, and you all voted for Take Me Home, Country Road. Man, that one, I've never been as excited for that song. You know what? I think the only thing, and you can't, I don't think, with last week's, we were talking about how much we loved Sweet Caroline and how it's a great song and everybody can sing it. But I don't think you can do that as a walk-up song.
No, not really. That's kind of like an in-between innings type of song.
Yeah, you gotta have that time. But that Country Road, man, I love it. I love it.
All right, Mike. So this week, so thank you for everyone for voting on our poll. This week's poll, we're going to go with Whoop. There it is. Against Blur, song 2, better known as Woohoo.
One last comment that I have to say about Country Road. And this one blew me away. I was listening to Dan Patrick a few weeks ago, and they talked about how the people in London are in love with football, and apparently they played Take Me Home, Country Road, and the entire stadium sang along.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, I wish I would have been there. That would, like, as much fun as it was in a minor league game to have that happen, how much more fun would it be in a stadium full of people?
Yeah.
So, okay.
There would.
Well,
we'll try and get that poll up. Go live around noon tomorrow, so be watching for that. If you want to vote on our polls, make sure to follow our Facebook page or one of our 2 Facebook pages, Balls and Sticks, or Fans of Balls and Sticks.
Yep. Okay. Rich, how broken are you?
It's pretty bad, Mike, but my bracket's looking pretty bad, but point-wise, compared to everybody else in our group, I'm not looking too bad.
You have the potential to be the best. I am holding on to a thread, and that thread is starting to fray. Man,
that's right.
This NCAA tournament, historic, to say the least. Where do you want to start?
Mike, let's go ahead and talk about the tournament itself before we talk about how our group is doing. So, Mike, we have no number 1 seeds making the Elite 8. Has that ever happened before, Mike?
No. And in
No.
fact, here's a better one. Better, and I'm on CBS Sports website, so I'm using them as my source. But there's only been 3 times in history that there have been no number 1 seeds in the Final Four. 1980, 2006, 2011. Other than that, we've never had. At least one of the number 1s have made it that far to the Final Fours. The Elite 8 this is the first time ever no number 1 has made it to the Elite 8. That is ridiculous.
Yeah. So far we're on the air right now. There are two Final Four games going on right now.
Sweet 16.
Texas is leading Xavier 42-25.
Yeah.
And it is currently 68-55 Creighton over Princeton in the second quarter.
The fact that Princeton is playing to get into the Elite 8 is ridiculous in and of itself.
A 15 seed.
Now, I will argue the reason that Princeton is a 15 seed is because they had to give 2 play-in games to teams, and they gave 4 teams the rank of an 11 seed. Theoretically, all 4 of those should gone under all of everybody else. So you could bump Princeton up maybe 1, maybe. I don't remember in their bracket if their play-in was a 15 or it was a 16 or if it was an 11. But either way, it's still crazy to think that Princeton is still trying to do that.
Princeton, it looks like, um, I can't tell if their side of the bracket had where the first four tournament was, but that was also the side of the bracket that saw, um, yeah, nope, I'm thinking of a different side of the bracket. Sorry.
So, uh, I was pointing out last week that after the first round, half of the top 16 or of the top 8, half of the top 8 were out. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Let alone,
I mean that they're
yeah, let alone where we are now.
Yeah, I mean there's a chance that you could not see any number two seeds
Yeah,
make it into the final four.
yeah, distinct possibility.
Yeah, I mean if anything, with your brackets being so bad getting into the Sweet 16, if you were rooting for chaos,
Oh yeah.
you got your wish.
Oh,
You got
100%.
your wish.
100%. It's ridiculous to me how much chaos there is right now, and I just, man, so
It's gonna be fun. It's still gonna be fun. So in the balls and sticks tournament pick'em game, with two elite Sweet 16 games to go final, the current standings going 1 through 3 are Mark Malloy in first place with 44 points. If he gets his remaining predictions correct, he'll get 72. Mike, you are in second place with 43 points, and if your remaining picks go through, you'll top out at 55. And in third place is Dupo with 41 points. He can top out at 53 points.
but Rich,
Currently,
you're in fourth.
I'm in sixth.
Oh, you're in sixth.
I am in sixth with 36 points. But I can top out at 72 points and go from the bottom all the way up to the top.
Yeah.
So currently, nobody in our group has a national champion left.
No.
When Alabama lost this tonight, everybody was out. Everybody, Alabama and Houston, when those two teams lost earlier this evening, that wiped everybody's big point total as a national champion out of the picture. And only two teams have a semifinal team left. I'm one of them. Mark Malloy is the other one.
Yeah.
He has K-State going to the semifinal game. They're still alive and will play tomorrow. I have UConn, which plays tomorrow.
Hang on.
You checking it real quick?
I thought I had. That's not true. As of right now, Xavier is still in. And I have Xavier in the Final Four.
Yes, but you don't have Xavier as a semifinal team losing the national championship.
So that would
Your
be
national
that is not a semifinal team. That is a finals team. Semifinals would be the Final Four. So that's where I was confused.
Okay.
The semifinal game would be the Final Four. The finalists. So we only have two that have finalists. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I got that wrong. My apologies.
Semifinalists.
As far as finalists goes, yes.
Okay. Yes.
You
as
have
as
Xavier. You still have Xavier.
Yes. I was gonna say that's the only way I get any more points is if Xavier actually wins. Like Gonzaga, I have losing in the next round because I thought Kansas was gonna be there. How ridiculous is this, man? Like,
but that's what makes March Madness so good. 80 team, you have one game. Even a lot of the teams that were like when Fairline Dixon won,
Yeah.
or any team that pulls off an upset, it's like they may beat it, they may be the better team, but not tonight
Yeah.
or not today.
And it's great to see, and we all love it. But man, it is. Sometimes it's infuriating when you actually sit and watch. How about the fact that the Big Ten is terrible in the tournament, and yet they always get big numbers in there. Somebody explain
It's the
that one to me.
conference. It's the conference.
But
That's it.
but again, why does the conference deserve to get what 6 teams in, 8 teams in? They get 1/4 of the teams in. No, they get 1/8. I'm sorry, they get 1/8 of the teams in. Generally, in the top half, and yet
And then by
rarely.
and then by the Sweet 16, only one or two of those teams is remaining.
Somebody
But
explained to
not
me. I'm a Big Ten fan. I'm a fan of the University of Illinois. That's the team that I've followed since high school. When it comes to college basketball, it's a team I support in college football. Somebody explained to me why they deserve to have people in this position.
It's a fair question, Mike, and it comes down to like maybe the just the mystique of the Big Ten, the Big Ten Conference. The reason why you see a lot of teams from the Big East and the SEC, the big Power Fives, the big Power Four conferences get a lot of teams in.
And I'm okay with that, like in general, but I'm not okay with it with the Big Ten. Let's look at Iowa the past few years, who have been a team that people have rightly argued have been some of their best teams we've seen in years. Playing well into the Big Ten tournament, and yet as soon as it comes to college, the NCAA big tournament, they fall flat on their face. Iowa fans, I know a lot of our fan base is Iowa fans. Somebody prove me wrong. I'll wait. Because you ain't going to do it. The Big Ten sucks in the NCAA championship. We need to relook at how we, A, set up the tournament, and B, I mean, the hard part is you have to get 64 teams in. 68 teams in. Sorry. I mean, 4 of those teams lose in the early round, not in the first round. But still, you have to populate 68 teams overall for the championship. By the way, when Rich and I were kids, when we were filling out brackets in junior high and high school, I don't know if you did, Rich, but I know I did. But when we were doing that, occasionally they had a situation where they had 2 teams that had to play in. Play-in games were not an every year thing. They were, on paper, these 2 teams are identical, and we're not sure what to do with them. Let's let them play a game. The winner of that one gets in. That's what it was when you and I were kids. There was
or I remember it being just 4 teams. Now it's
at
like
best
3. Now it's like it's 4 games for playing seeds, and some of these people are being given like an 8 or a 9 seed or an 11 seed instead of automatically being slotted in as a 16th team.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense. It's the expansion of the... When we see such terrible play as we do from the Big Ten, and I understand they're going to have to put the Big Ten in there. Why? Because the Big Ten is it brings numbers, it brings ticket sales, it does all this stuff. People love the Big Ten. That's fine. Whatever. I understand. But also, who else are you going to put in? Name 6 other teams that deserve to be there better than those than
The team that finished in the middle
name 6
of the
teams.
Big Ten conference.
Name 6 teams that deserve to be ahead of Illinois. Now you could argue anybody that won in the first round deserves to be ahead of anybody that lost in the first round, but I'm going to tell you that's wrong. But if you were to take Illinois out, tell me a team that could fit in there. You have to have these. You have to do it. Why? Because honestly, you gotta have somebody in there that you have to put teams that are gonna look decent in there. Illinois almost won that game. They brought it within striking distance. Iowa looked all right. Lots of the Big Ten teams looked like they could do something. They were in the games that they played. Now, theoretically, if they would have had a higher seed and they were playing one of the teams that was 8-10 spots lower than them, would they have a better chance at winning? Probably. But that's not how it works. The best teams have the easy roads, and the worst teams, well, you're going to face the people that are close to you. That's why 8-9s aren't upsets. That's why I don't consider 7-10s upsets. For me, I almost think you got to get out to a 13 before I would consider it a true upset in the tournament. But that's just me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. I mean, as far as the Big Ten goes, the only amongst
Michigan
the
State.
teams that made it, you had Michigan State go to lose in the Sweet 16.
That's it.
That was a close game. The Michigan State, because Indiana got blown out by Miami in their Sweet 16 game.
And how did Purdue do?
Purdue lost in the first round. They were a number 1 seed. You had
A number 1 seed.
You had Northwestern as a number 7 seed, and Michigan State, I think, was a 7 seed. Go much further than a number 1 seed, Purdue.
Yep. Again, does it deserve to be that way? I mean, does the Big Ten have to have people in there? I don't think so. By the way, I think I predicted even on the show that I didn't see Purdue going past the second round, but mostly because I don't trust any Big Ten team to go past the second round, but also because when truly challenged, Purdue did not play as well, and they only won sloppily. They didn't win well.
Mm.
Most of their wins were pretty poor, and so I would not have picked that. So that's kind of where I stand on that one. Rich, any other NCAA insights that you want to talk about, or anything, any counterpoints to anything that I've said?
You know, I really don't. I think I remember when I was driving home one night from work, they were talking about the Big Ten Conference's ineffectiveness in the tournament, and they pointed out that it seems like all of the Big Ten schools play the exact same type of basketball. Slow down, dunk it into the low post.
Yep.
And they're not really playing fast, quick-paced basketball.
Yep.
They sometimes lose to these smaller schools who are going up with nothing to lose, and they're in the tournament because they won a conference title or they got a random at-large bid. They're playing fast-paced, more faster-paced style of play, and the Big Ten just hasn't been able to adjust to that type. I mean, because everybody they play in the conference plays the same type of way they do.
I mean, we all learned from Space Jam, the first one, the only one worth talking about, that basketball is a fast-paced, razzle-dazzle game. And we all learned that. And when the Big Ten doesn't play it as a fast-paced, razzle-dazzle game, you're setting yourself up for failure. So that's really good insight, by the way, Rich. That's great. I love that.
Oh, I that's not me. That's not me. That's
But you retained it.
I think it was Chris and it was Canty and Carlin. I think we're talking about that, or
I don't even know who
Canty
that
and
is.
Carlin. That they're on the national ESPN radio.
Oh, I don't listen to ESPN radio, but that's just me. Okay, Rich. With that being said, do you see what's coming up next?
Mike, is it a left?
It is a left turn, and after that, Rich?
Another left-hand turn.
No, this time it's a right-hand turn because we're heading into the NASCAR corner in Texas at the Circuit of the Americas. And we're heading into the NASCAR corner, presented as always by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out on 5th Avenue in person for all your sports memorabilia needs, or on their eBay store. Once again, that is Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated.
All right, Mike. So last week we were down in ATL in Atlanta for the Ambetter Health 500.
Yep.
All right, Mike. Neither of our drivers did particularly well as they got caught up in some wrecks on the Recon Oval. Races like a super speedway.
Mostly because of your wife's favorite driver.
I don't know. The replays showed that it wasn't that there wasn't as much of a tap as it originally looked like, though.
I agree, but
I know.
When it first happened, I was angry.
Okay, so Kevin Harvick finished 33rd.
By the way, he looked really good when he was out there.
He did.
Up until he wrecked. I'm not going to even say he got wrecked. Up until he wrecked, he looked like he was the class of the field. But that wreck really, that's what did him in and took him out of the race. So it happens. It's rare that the number one car, the person in P1 at the time, gets wrecked. But the way that the driving happened, and Rich, your driver, Daniel Suarez, only got a little bit better as he finished in 29th.
Yeah, he got caught up in a wreck too. All right, and your race winner was Joey Logano.
Yeah. I almost said the young man, but man, he's not so young anymore. I remember when he came into NASCAR and he was like 18 years old, and we made fun of him because he was so young because we were 19. Solomon Stroop will remember that. Shout out, Solomon. But yeah, it's crazy. Right. So this week, anything else coming? Did you hear the best news or the best story out of NASCAR this week?
No, I did not. What was that, Mike? While you're looking that up, Mike, let's give our fantasy NASCAR shout out for Atlanta. So our race winner, our top scoring team last week was Jordan the Supus, coming out with 214 points. Dupo came in second with 200 points. I came in third with 147. The Funkhouse had 140, getting fourth place. And Mike, you picked up fifth this week with 122. Overall standings saw Dupo go into first place with 895. I'm in second place with 881. Mike, you're dropped down from third to fourth as you have 845.
I'd like to also mention that Jenna got fifth last week. Jenna Beans got fifth, and Jordan got sixth. Get everybody in.
Jordan came in at 7.
Oh, 7. So Jeffrey came in at 6? Or did Jeffrey come in?
Jenna Beans was 6.
Okay.
With 119.
I gave him one better.
Jeffrey Stroop was 102.
Okay. So, did you hear about Josh Williams?
I have not. One more thing, though. In the odd event that Jordan listens to the show. Fix your lineup. You're burning your Chase Elliott uses by keeping him in your starting lineup when he's not even racing.
I didn't know that they'd let him do that.
Yes,
Jordan,
you
come
can.
on. I'll send him a message. I'll send him a message after the show. Um, okay. We need.
Oof.
Okay, so Josh Williams in the Xfinity
Okay.
race had a piece of
Oh
his
yeah,
car,
yeah.
a piece of Bear Bond, which is heavy duty tape that holds their cars together, fell off of the race car. Apparently, it's in the rules that if something like that happens, you have to come out of the race. So they reached out and said, "Young man, you need to park your car." So he comes and parks his car on the start-finish line, gets out of it, waves at the crowd, and walks through the infield to salute to how stupid he thinks the rule is.
Yep. And he said, "All right, if they're gonna find me, I don't know. I'm not gonna be able to pay it. We're not making enough money off of this thing."
Honestly, he's become a legend and a fan favorite in NASCAR. I'm gonna guess you're gonna see a lot of his shirts sell. Honestly, I think he knew what he was doing. This is gonna vault him into huge fandom. Because NASCAR fans love stuff like this. They just love it. So, in all honesty, a move like this will gain him way more fans than it will hurt him, and he will make way more money off of it. But even on top of it, even on top of all of that, man, it was awesome. And the dude had the dude is your current 20 something with a mullet. I'm gonna say it. I don't know why mullets are coming back. I don't get it. I got a beard. I guess that's people find that weird. People don't like those. I've had this as not quite as long as you've known me, but for as long as my wife has known me, longer than that. I've had it for 15 years. In all honesty, wait, no, 8. No, almost 17 years. I've had the beard for 17 years. I don't plan on shaving it anytime soon. My dad has had a beard since I was a kid. That's part of why I have a beard. I like beards. They're cool. But I don't get the mullet. Do you get the mullet, Rich?
No, I don't get the mullet either.
Okay. Well, as long as I'm not alone. Okay, so Rich, now that we've concluded our discussion. By the way, what did you think of the race, the Ambetter Health 500?
I liked it. It was a good race.
Good race. Great race. So now that we've concluded that, let's head to where we have left and rights, because we are going to the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, for the Echo Park Automotive Grand Prix at COTA. Cool.
All right.
Rich,
Yeah.
your driver finished first, so you get to pick first, as you have a score of 5-1. As you have
Well,
one.
Mike, I'm going to continue a trend of picking somebody different, and I'm going to go Tyler Reddick today
Okay.
for this week. He's got a good track record of on the. He's always had a top 10 finish at COTA in the small sample size. He typically does pretty well on the road courses, and he had the fastest laps in practice today.
Okay. I like that. I'm going to pick somebody I haven't gotten to pick in 2 years.
2 years.
And somebody that, somebody different, but not at all, because I'm going with Jimmy Johnson. Doesn't that excite you that we get to say Jimmy Johnson again, Rich?
Sorry, I was just confirming that Jimmy Johnson is racing at COTA, and he does.
Yeah.
And the Legacy Motor Club car he is driving the number 84 this week. I just wanted to make sure
Let's go.
you weren't locked into a predict. You weren't locked into a prediction of a guy that isn't even racing.
By the way, there are if you are following along in our fantasy NASCAR, I would recommend looking at some of your road course specialists that you're not going to get lots of use out of because they're not going to be racing this week. They'll be racing. They tend to do quite well. They're really good road course drivers, and look for them to do well. So I would look at them. Maybe pick some of the better veteran guys, but also mix in some of those guys that you. Kimi Räikkönen jumps to mind. How exciting is it to get him into the NASCARs this weekend? And guys like AJ Allmendinger, guys like that, always rise to the top, and it'll be fun to watch.
Yep, yep, yep. Always, make sure to check out the Fantasy Fastlane article on the NASCAR app as well, as they can give you some helpful pointers about setting up your fantasy lineup. But I'd also look into Jordan Taylor, the guy that's going to be piloting Chase Elliott's number 9 car. Good sports car racer. Competed with Jeff Gordon in the 24 Hours of Le Mans
Oh,
once.
nice. Nice.
So maybe look at him to maybe get a good position, and as well, it could be a way to save uses
Yep.
for guys that aren't as well at the road courses. And different this year about road courses is they will be using the choose cone for this race, and there will be no cautions at the end of stages. The race
Yeah.
will continue.
Yeah, that's gonna be a game changer there. That'll be exciting to watch. So, Rich, anything else before we head out of the NASCAR corner?
No, I don't think so.
Then
So,
why
Mike,
don't you
that
read
was
us
the
out?
NASCAR corner presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Fifth Avenue in Moline, if you're local to the Quad Cities, or you can find them on the eBay. Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. So, Mike, let's keep making left turns, but we're going to go around the baseball diamond now.
Yeah.
Opening day less than a week away, as the Cubs will open up Thursday.
Oh,
Thursday.
They open up
the
Thursday.
31st.
Okay.
Thursday the 31st.
So, Rich,
make sure.
we need to actually make our Cubs prediction today.
We do, because we're going to record after that game happens.
We're
Let me
gonna
make sure. Yep. So Thursday the 30th, Mike, they're taking on the Brew Crew. Marcus Stroman going up against Corbin Burns
Okay.
in Wrigley. Can they get
that's gonna
the
be
win?
a cold game.
Can they get the win on opening day?
I don't trust Strowman enough. I'm gonna say a loss.
Okay. So Mike, you're giving them the W. You're giving them an L.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give them a W, Mike. There's that unpredicted. There's that hopeful optimism of opening day. So I'd love to come in and do our show next Friday, and be talking about how great I felt about the Cubs W.
Are we doing a show Friday next week?
We kind of do. I'll be at ISI on Saturday.
Good to know.
Saturday. Huh?
Good to know.
Okay.
I didn't know
we'll
that
get
was
clarification on that.
That's fine. We can make it work. Okay, so we will see how that turns out. But we also have to give you predictions of what we think for the NLCS, the wild card, or the World Series prediction for who wins the NLC and the ALCS, and who's going to be in the World Series. Next week, we give you our pick for the winner of the World Series. And finally, this week, we're also going to give you our sleeper picks. And we're going to talk about some minor tweaks to the rule changes that they've had.
Yeah. So, Mike, your American League playoff teams were the Yankees, the Guardians, the Mariners, the Jays, the Houston baseball team, and the Twins.
I like the way you put that one there, Rich.
I know you don't like that. I know you don't like their actual name anymore. So, Mike,
The Asterix.
who is going to make it out of who's going to make it into your ALCS?
So I think it's gonna be the Guardians
Okay.
and the Yankees.
All right. So, Mike, my American League teams are fairly simple. We're pretty much the same. I went with the Yankees, the Guardians, the Astros, the Jays, the Rays, and the Twins. And I'm going to go with the Yankees over the Blue Jays
Okay,
for my ALCS.
okay, I like that. I do like those picks. Let's see them Blue Jays do something this year. Um, Rich, your NLC, your NL, you put the Braves, the Cardinals, the Padres, the Dodgers, the Mets, and the Phillies. Who do you think is going to come out of that and be
You know, my
in the championship?
I'm going to go with the Padres, and I'm going to have them beating the Mets.
Ooh, okay. So we're gonna have some cross continental flights happening there. I had the Braves, the Cardinals, the Dodgers, the Padres, the Mets, and the Phillies. Exact same teams. We just flipped our AL West and or our NL West and our number one wild cards. So I am actually going to take the Dodgers over the Phillies. And the Phillies are going to get hot late in the year, and they're going to play really well up until they hit that Dodgers squad.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the Phillies are going to need to get hot at the end of the year.
It's the only way they're going to do
Bryce Bryce Harper is going to be out the first half of the year,
it. Yep.
and they lost their first baseman Reese Hoskins
Yeah.
this week with a torn ACL.
Yeah, but
But at the same time, I mean, that ownership group wants to see a championship, wants to win a
Yep.
championship.
Yep.
So I think they'd be the ones to make a move to replace to fill a gap midway
Okay.
midway and just wouldn't wait for Harper to get back.
So Rich,
Um,
last week.
and Mike, explain your doubts about the Mets because you brought up some good points during in our pre-show.
So the Mets are always the team that ahead of the season look amazingly well, and on paper they do, and they come out of the gate swinging like crazy, and then they have a June swoon, kind of like the Cubs used to. They'll bring it back just to skate into the playoffs. And then, like the Cubs of the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, they play okay, but they always get bumped in the first or second round of the playoffs. It's what they've been doing the past 10 years.
Yeah, and they have injury concerns as well as they lost Edwin Diaz for the year after he got injured in the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, that was and that was the other thing. They don't have their closer this year. What are you gonna do? Like, how do you trust that team's gonna do something for you when this is what they've? I'm gonna say it this way, and it's gonna sound more ridiculous coming from a Cubs fan. Now that I'm on this side of the World Series, I can make the claim. But how do you live? Like, how do you not be us Cubs fans of the early 2000s? Rich, you and I watched it. We were these fans, just like these Mets were. These Mets fans are. How do you get your hopes up every year, only to have it happen the same? How many years did you and I go to games in May, thinking we're watching a World Series bound team that for some reason Alfonso Soriano has a mid-season swoon, and so does Derek Lee, and so does Ramirez, and all these guys who should all be winning Golden Gloves and have huge names that are great players in the game. And we have Carlos Zambrano pitching so well, and yet first round of the playoffs, we're bounced. It's what our life was in the early 2000s, the early 10s. So that's where the Mets are right now, and I don't think they've done anything to really improve themselves enough to make me think they're going to get over that hump. So that's really my big thing on the Mets. Rich, excuse me. Last week I threw you a curveball. I said I want you to come up with a sleeper team. Now this is a team might not be getting early season predictions, but a team that you think could actually turn out great this year. I actually had a team in mind, and I wanted to see what you thought of it. That's really why I brought it up.
Okay, gotcha. So what's your team, Mike?
My team's the Giants. They're not getting much love this season, but they've slowly started to build their team back up. They're not the same team that they were a decade ago, but they're starting to embrace their young core. Their new young core looks like it's going to be good, and I think that's going to be a team to watch out for.
Yeah, I think the Giants were a team that maybe would get. They got attention for the guys that they didn't sign this year, than the guys that they did end up bringing in.
Yep.
And because they were going after Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge re-signed back in.
Yeah.
Re-signed back in New York. They were going after Carlos Correa. Carlos Correa signed the contract. He took his physical. The Giants didn't like what they saw in the physical, pulled the offer, and they ended up with Michael Conforto as their big free agent signing, and he was a guy that's recovering from an injury.
Yeah.
Instead of Judge or Correa.
Yeah.
Instead, but they got a solid pitching staff. They got a good bullpen. I could see the Giants making some noise, and maybe if Father Time catches up to the Dodgers veteran players, and I could see them squeaking into the playoffs.
Yeah. So that's my prediction.
All right, for me, it may be a team to watch. They're going to be playing in a really tough division. They may finish last in their second to last or last in their division.
Yep.
I'm going to go with the Baltimore Orioles. They got a good young shortstop in Gunnar Henderson that could do really well.
Yeah.
Great catcher Adley Ruckman looks pretty good. Looked pretty good last year, and so yeah, I mean there's a lot of young players, and this is a team that was in contention for a playoff spot up until the last week of the regular season last year. So
I like that. That's a great call. I don't know that I'm as hot on them as you might be, but I also don't think you're super hot on them. I think you're in the warm stages, but you're not hot.
No,
there's
a
little.
It was tough because I was trying not to pick a team that made the playoffs last year because that they shouldn't be a sleeper.
Yeah.
If you made the playoffs last year, it's expected that you should be back in the playoffs next year.
You picked
the following year.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I totally can get down on that. I stayed away from teams that I put in the playoffs because I think most of those teams are teams that you could argue should be making the playoffs. And so I stayed away from those teams. And of course, I made the rule before we talked about it. We had to stay away from the Cubs. The Cubs are always in the national news, but not always covered super great. And this year is one of those years where, because you and I care, we get more Cubs information than most. But if you're talking to anybody outside of the Midwest, probably, I don't know that they're getting the coverage. But I really do think they're going to be one of those teams that look out for them. If they can get their bullpen figured out, which is always the case, they could be one of those teams that surprises a lot of people this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, besides last year. I think last year I knew that, yeah, this team, it's going to be a long year.
Yeah.
But most years, we come in maybe with maybe overhyping or expecting more than the Cubs than what we know they can give us,
Yeah.
what they know is going to happen. But I mean, this year I'm back on that bandwagon of saying, you know what, these guys could be really good.
They could. They could. Okay.
Last year was totally nope.
Yep.
Forget about it.
Rich, you actually commented on it earlier about how we didn't have much NFL talk. Let's scrap that for this week. Let's go to our quick hits while we're still talking about baseball. We're gonna have to skip some rule changes. We're right at 50 minutes. So.
Oh, all right.
Um,
All right, Mike. So along the lines of baseball, Japan won the World Baseball Classic.
and did you hear the news that came out today?
No, I did not. What's up?
The World Baseball Classic has been confirmed for 2026.
Yeah, that's good. So, Mike, did you think you would ever see? I mean, a lot of people talk about that really follow the game. That well, this is for the teams that play on it. This is the real World Series because you're seeing countries playing for countries. Do you ever think you'll see the World Baseball Classic, the finals, not held in the U.S., to where you could see it being played
No.
in Japan? You think it's
It-
always going to be in the U.S.?
The only way it doesn't is if it's a Southern Hemisphere uh, location. Because it will only happen if it's after the World Series, or basically it's going to either have to happen after the World Series or right before the beginning of the season, because you can't. Where else are you going to play it unless you play it in South America? Maybe I guess you could do Central America or the Caribbean. Those ones would work. Japan won't work.
But Japan does host. I think Japan and I think Taiwan, I think do host like the pool play games.
Right, and that's
But once you get into the knockout round, all the action comes over to the U.S.
but it has to, because the guys that are earning hundreds of millions of dollars to play this game need to be near the U.S. because Otani has to play tomorrow's game to get ready for next week's game. And I know that these guys travel a lot, but traveling from San Francisco to New York is not the same as traveling from San Francisco to Japan. Those are vastly different. I think it's like a 8 to 10 hour flight from San Francisco to Japan. It's like a 3 to 4 hour flight from San Francisco to New York. It's huge. And the
I
time
was
zone
just curious.
difference.
I was just curious. That's all. I mean,
Nope.
maybe. I mean, the only thing that kind of floated around in my head is that the country that wins it, the previous year gets to host the championship game for the following year.
I like that concept. I don't think it's
But yeah,
gonna work.
I don't know if it's realistic or not.
Because
Because you're right. A lot of the major leaguers, once their team is out of it, they go back to spring training.
Yep. By the way, so it's also nerve wracking. Also, why I think if it happened to move to Central or South America and you did it in the winter time, you do it after the season, because some of your guys have gotten a little bit more rest. And this is the big one for me, it gives them time to recover from these injuries. Altuve's out for the first half of the year at least for broken
They've
thumb.
said it could be 2 to 3 months with a broken thumb.
What's that going to do to Houston? Wait, Rich, who did you before we started our pregame? Who did you have as your pick to lose to the Yankees?
I put the Astros.
But you changed it because of an injury,
I did.
and I don't fault you for it. it's a huge injury. It's going to cost them games early on, which makes their playoffs harder. I don't blame you at all. I think you're 100% accurate on it.
Yeah, right now, I mean, the major challenges, I think, with, at least on the U.S. side, is that a lot of your big name ace type pitchers elect not to play in this game. Would you have ever thought that if you were putting together a national baseball team, a national team,
Yep.
that you would have Merrill Kelly
No.
starting as your pitcher in the championship game?
Nope. But I mean, I love the World Baseball Classic. It gets great news on baseball. The games are more exciting. They bring a depth that you don't get elsewhere. I think it should continue. I'm glad it's happening in 3 years. Okay, Rich, anything else about the World Baseball Classic before we move on and do the things we have to do?
I don't think so. With the way we've talked, let's go ahead and talk about like those minor tweaks to rule changes next week, because
Okay.
who knows? Maybe Rob Bamford changes his mind again and
Yeah.
decides to further tweak the rules.
Yeah.
So hopefully everything will be in stone before the season starts. So Mike, before we give our spoiler alert, do we have any comments, shout outs, or reactions?
No, we do not. But if
All
you want to
right.
get those, folks, check us out on Balls and Sticks to Podcast. If you want to watch us live when we're doing the show, make sure to like the page. And it should when we go live, it should send you a notification. Sign up for those notifications, and you'll get those, and we'll jump on as quickly as we can. Then, with that being said, spoiler alert: if you did not watch this week's Masked Singer, go ahead and turn us off. If you did, or you just don't care, go ahead and keep listening. But this is your spoiler alert. Check us out anywhere where you find our podcast. If you're going to turn us off now, find us where you want to find us, on podcasts or on YouTube or Facebook. This is your final spoiler alert. This week we had The Masked Singer. We had Country Night. Oh, that was painful.
I enjoyed it. I'm sorry, but the longer I've been married to my wife Amy, the more I've grown to like country music.
The longer I've been married to my wife, the more I appreciate that she doesn't like country music. Neither one of us
That's
do.
fair. All right, so Mike, we saw the fairy
Yep.
come back,
Man.
and she had to go up against the McCall, and I'm trying to see what they called like the
Oh,
chameleon thing.
I should know this because it's a fish. It's a aquatic salamander that a lot of people keep in large fish tanks, and they're really cool. Ocelot or
An ocelot? Axolotl. Axolotl.
Oxalotl.
Axolotl. Okay.
Oxalotl.
All right. So before we talk about who was unmasked,
We might get an oxalotl, by the way.
Oh, okay. Who was your you've seen you saw the entire episode anyway.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite performer of the night?
I struggled to enjoy any of them. Truthfully, I struggled to, because the country music and there's some bad memories there and stuff like that. So some of it was struggled. But legitimately, I truly did love what the fairy did. The axolotl was my favorite costume. I love that outfit, and I hope to. I really do think we might get an axolotl, because those things are freaking cool.
All right. I liked the McCall the best.
Okay.
Myself.
And the macaw did great. However, who was the first to go home?
Was the Axolotl, who was WWE superstar or Alexis Bliss.
Never heard of her. I don't watch WWF.
I don't watch it any either. I don't watch it anymore either.
I did think that I appreciated how much the judges figured out the clues. Like the clues were there, and they figured out it was a WWE star with the raw steak, and they figured out
The bell,
the bell.
the ring bell.
Yep. And they figured out a lot of stuff. And Jenny was correct on that one. And then we go into the showdown or whatever the showdown. Right?
The battle royale.
Oh yeah, that's what they're calling it now. Yeah, the battle royale where the macaw and the fairy go against each other. I don't think either one of them deserve to lose this week. Neither one of them lost. I think one of them just won. And that was the macaw.
Yeah, I mean, do you think they used the bell too early?
Yeah.
To where you didn't think that the gremlin... No, it wasn't...
Gargoyle.
but the gremlin deserved
Gargoyle.
to have been saved. The gargoyle deserved to have been saved that week. Seeing who saw... I don't think anybody from Sesame Street week really, for me, was like... No, you need to save one of those guys. But I can see this week.
Not to spoil it, but that story about last week about oh man, we'll get into it. No, I think they used it too early. I think these two should have been the ones going on. I don't like seeing and this is the second time we've seen it that the person who's performed the most and looks like really shouldn't lose but has to lost. And it's sad to me. And so it would have just ended up that 2 3-time winners end up going into the thing. Fine, whatever. They used it. It's sad that they did. It was too soon. Now, let's get into the so the macaw wins.
Yep.
The fairy ends up going home. And it was the girl from Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Holly Robinson Pete.
Yeah, Holly Robinson Pete. I didn't realize the last name Pete was there. When I remember her from back in the early 90s or the 90s and whatnot, she didn't have the Pete on it, I don't think. I think it was just Holly Robinson. And I remember her, and I loved her, and it was exciting for me. I thought it was great. And then that story she shared, first of all, I had never heard the term Nepo kid that they were throwing around.
No, I don't.
You didn't notice it? They called him. She called herself the original Nepo kid. And,
no, I didn't.
And so a Nepo kid is someone whose parent works in the entertainment industry, and they go on to work in the entertainment industry, and it's because of nepotism. Okay. That's what it is. I had never heard of that. And then it turns out that her dad was the original
Mr. Gordon.
Yeah, Mr.
Gordon on Sesame Street.
And that he's the one that introduced Oscar the Grouch and Cookie Monster, and she got to sing for them last week. I almost cried. I'm not even ashamed of it. Like, just her telling that story was heartbreaking to me. I loved it. I 100% on board.
Yeah, it was a cool element.
I was excited. I didn't realize that she sang the Hanging to Mr. Cooper song and all the other ones that she did. It was great. I loved her. I am sad that she's off the show. I think she deserves. I can't wait for whatever the next. Are they going to do an Easter special to bring back everybody or something? I don't know, but
I don't know. For me, I wanted to see the McCall win, just so you had like a male vocalist in the finals.
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah. Because right now, I don't think I don't think that that the Gargoyle has what it takes to win in the.
No, I don't think he does either. I mean, I'm curious to see who they save in the next round,
which starts this week on Wednesday.
It does.
So
does start this week on Wednesday.
Okay, Rich. Anything else you want to talk about?
I don't, Mike. So, Mike, if folks are watching us here on the Facebook feed and they want to take us on the road, where can they find the show?
You can find us wherever you find your podcast. We post through Anchor, so that gets you to Spotify and Apple Music or Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and Podcast and all the podcasts. We also, I think, we're on iHeart, and if there's a podcast app that we're not on, let us know. We'll try to figure out how to get to it. I don't think we're ever going to be able to get on Halo because that's a religious podcast only thing. But other than that, we should be on all of them. Rich,
All right, Mike.
they're watching, they're listening to us on their favorite podcast app, but for some reason they want to see what we look like and see that we just sit here and talk to each other like this, and they want to look at my fish.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful guppies. Anyway, what should they do in order to look at the beautiful guppies behind me?
You know what, Mike? You can either find us on Facebook when our Facebook Live video goes live, or if you don't like Facebook, find us on the YouTube.
And if you want to participate in our poll questions, they are always posted on our Facebook page, either the fans of Balls and Sticks or the Balls and Sticks Facebook page, where you can participate in our poll questions. And with that, Rich, what's it time to do?
Mike, let's go and roll that outro.
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.